Welcome back to another edition of Eyes on AFL. In this series, we go through some of your AFL opinions and hot takes and discuss them. It's the midway point of the 2024 season, so there are plenty of topics to dissect. Let's start. North Melbourne Football Club Fan 7 says, AFL is a game of inconsistency, and teams at their best like Freo, Adelaide and the Dogs are a top 4 side, but we struggle to see that consistently from them. No doubt this is true. I can remember Brad Scott on AFL 360 a few weeks back saying at the end of the season the difference between say 4th and 13th on the ladder isn't as big as people think. He's right. The competition has become so even of late that if you're off just 5% on game day, you can lose to anyone. There is no better example than the top side in Sydney, who lost to Richmond earlier in the season. Chris Scott, after Geelong's 4-game losing streak, also stressed his attitude hadn't changed a whole lot from when they had won 7 games in a row. Basically every team across the year has had a down month of games, but have also had a great month. With the examples provided focusing on Fremantle and the Bulldogs specifically, both have shown brilliance. Fremantle, for example, beat Melbourne by over 90 points, yet lost to West Coast by 37, and the Western Bulldogs beat GWS in Sydney, but got outplayed by Hawthorn when they were out of form. A lot of the inconsistency over the year is due to injury as well, and it feels like the saying, it's not who you play but when you play them, has never been more accurate. 2024's Premier will be the side that can peak at the right time and consistently perform when it matters most. Jay Wilkes 5325 believes Fremantle was Sydney's biggest threat. They were a few goals away from beating the Blues in power, while circumstance may have affected them in their 2 other losses to Sydney and the West Coast Eagles. I was off the Fremantle bandwagon at the start of the season, but I'm jumping back on board. I still don't have 100% confidence in them, but so much is going right. Now I don't think they would be 12-0, and although reasons Wilkes describes that impacted the defeat such as injury, close losses and travel may be true, you can apply all of these to basically every other AFL team at some point in the season. The latter doesn't lie, and neither does their 7-win, 4-loss and 1-draw record. They are a good team up to this point in the season. Now they did play Sydney in round 9, losing by 48 points, but that doesn't paint the whole picture of the night. Cam McCarthy had just passed away, and clearly some Fremantle players were heavily affected. At halftime, it was 1 goal and 8 behinds to 9 straight goals. Fremantle's accuracy essentially cost them being in the game in the second half. They are the 5th least accurate side in the AFL, but have been improving in the past couple of weeks. The midfield leads the league in total clearances per game, and their expected score on average is top 6. Fremantle do it differently to other sides and go against the general trend of the competition. They win the ball out the middle and possess it more than anyone else. They lead the competition for uncontested possessions and are 3rd in marks. Go watch the game against Melbourne. They used this style and toyed with the Ds all game long. It means their defence is always set up behind the ball and can springboard attacks for them. I still have a few teams like GWS, Carlton and Geelong ahead of Fremantle for threats to the Swans, but the Dockers are building nicely and are playing in a unique way compared to most other AFL teams. BTGO63 wonders if there's a strong link between current day premiership coaches and the grand final success they had when they were AFL players. The only way to see if this is the case is to go through the premiership coaches since 2000. Now I am going to count VFL, Sandful and Waffle premierships. While the correlation is extremely strong, out of the last 24 premiership coaches, just 6 were not premiership players. 75% were able to achieve the ultimate team success when they were on the field. Since 2017, every single grand final winning coach played in a premiership team. The last man not to was Luke Beveridge and his Bulldogs in 2016. The big outlier is Alistair Clarkson. He accounts for 4 of the 6 coaches who didn't win as players. The other 2 are the before mentioned Luke Beveridge, and in 2005 with Paul Roos and the Sydney Swans. Damien Hardwick won 2 premierships, first in 2000 with Essendon and then in 2004 as a veteran at Port Adelaide. Mark Bomber Thompson won 3 premierships when he was at Essendon, including captaining them in 1993 before winning 3 flags for Geelong. Then guys like Adam Simpson won 2 premierships as a midfielder at North Melbourne, and Simon Goodwin was a classy player for Adelaide in their back-to-back premierships in the late 90s. Mark Williams didn't win an AFL or VFL flag, but was a 4-time SANFL premiership player with Port Adelaide. I think it's definitely fair to say having success as a player can help translate to winning as a senior coach. Ben Parsons 1995 says the AFL needs to be clear on the rules well before the start of every season. So many chopping and changing with the rules makes it hard to keep up with as a fan. I think most AFL supporters will agree. The sudden change of holding the ball, where the ball handler has less time to fight tackles, and if an arm is pinned, they still need to try to get rid of the ball, has caused a lot of confusion. It also seems bracing for contact from a tackler is sometimes seen as a player fending off and interpreted as their prior opportunity. Overall, the change is still confusing to me, but it is good when the ball is thrown up quicker when it is clearly a ball up. Still, why do we have to get to this point? Chris Scott said on AFL 360, big changes to rule interpretations should be done before the season, exactly what Ben is saying here. If you decide to give ball handlers a long time to fight off tackles, then keep it that way. The more chopping and changing results in the more confusion. If the AFL wants to expand the game in the Eastern Seaboard, then it's these type of things that make it difficult to explain. I don't think the umpires should have no fault in situations too, but it obviously doesn't help them trying to officiate an already fast-paced and multi-dimensional sport. Make it clear to the football public any tweaks to rules before the season and keep it that way. If you want to readjust, then that's what the off-season can be used for. Thanks for watching another edition of Eyes on AFL. If you want to add any more opinions or football takes, please leave them in the comments below to get featured in a future video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back soon.